All right, welcome to episode 6 of the Hats and Bats podcast. Today is Sunday, April 28th. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? I don't know. Your Jet love right now is crazy. You have this bright green Jet shirt on. We were talking about the Jets hats last episode. This is Hats and Bats, sir. I'm going to need you to dress appropriately for this podcast.
It's the one time of the year where I can have optimism. I just had my Super Bowl with the draft, so just let me live this up for right now. What a fantastic logo.
That is, let me tell you, I do not like the Jets colors, the Jets color scheme at all, but that's a nice one. That's a nice one. Is that 47?
This is 47, yes, sir.
That works. We're going to be talking about that today, amongst other things. But you got some trivia for me?
I do. So with this week, we were just talking about with the NFL draft. Did you know, this isn't a trivia question yet, that 14 players have been drafted first overall in the NFL draft and made it to the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame? Most recently with Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. How many number one picks, though, in the Major League Baseball draft have made it to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I don't think it's many.
It's not many. It's way less than
I don't think it's many. I was having that conversation today, actually, about the MLB draft, how it's not always the best player that goes number one. So I'm going to go smaller side. I'm going to go 15.
Incorrect. Way too high.
Way too high. Even there. See, my instinct was right, but I didn't realize how low is too low. So what's the correct answer?
So we have 4. The first one that actually made it and the one that doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. We had Harold Baines, drafted in first overall in 1977. I am anti-Harold Baines. Inducted in 2019. Next, surefire Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr., drafted in 87. Hall of Famer 2016. We had Chipper Jones, drafted in 1990, first overall. And Hall of Fame in 2018. And then most recently, and the last one to do it, Joe Mauer was drafted in 2001, first overall by the Twins, inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2024. So only 4 first overall picks. Like you said, it's very dependent on like who is drafting them and how much money they're willing to spend. Totally different than football.
Absolutely. So that wasn't even the trivia question, though. So I've already gotten the pre-trivia question wrong.
No, that was the trivia. That was it.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I thought you were setting up for something. Okay, all right, perfect. Yeah, I'm over 3. I'm over my last 3 now. I'm in a little bit of a slump.
I'm stumping the cloud. I feel like I've gotten better at this. So that nice little beautiful 47 hat you have on.
Sir. Yeah,
we really haven't talked about 47 hats before.
Yeah, I referenced this. I referenced this last time. I'm a big fan of 47. I know you are too. Like, listen, I love the fitteds. I love the on-fields. I love the side patch. But I'm getting older now, and I've embraced the dad hat look for quite some time. And there's just nothing more dependable, just a better surefire fit, a better bang for your buck than going with 47. Now, 47 has a lot of like nostalgic things that they're doing now, which is really good with the snapbacks and a lot of the fonts that we saw back in the early 90s and whatnot. When it comes to 47, I'm a traditionalist. Just give me a nice, simple logo, a nice, clean fit, fitted or the adjustable back. I'm all about it. I am all about it, especially like the summertime. It's a little bit warmer outside. I want my head to breathe a little bit. With my nicer side patch hats, I don't want to like really ruin that sweatband too much. I'm sporting the dad hat. I'm sporting the 47, and it's always reliable. Buying from there to me is the best because you get it quick. Again, it's dependable. I got one coming in a couple days. I'm super excited about. I do. I guess I love the reliability and the comfortability of 47. They're always nice looking. They really are. And I got one of my favorite ones. This one right here. It's just the Mets all black with the blue logo. There it is. I do love this one here.
Is that a franchise hat? Is that the franchise?
This is franchise, but especially the 47. My favorite theme, if you will, is the vault. I love the vault. And the logo's nicer. It's again those classic older looks. Can never go wrong with the vault. But even the traditional 47 like classic look, like I'll tell you, I've worn this hat so many times. I would say per wear, I probably wear this one the most out of all 47s. And I'm not even an Arkansas fan, but there's something about this hat here again that's just super reliable. I love the gray. I love the Red Hog. I mean, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I've gotten so much use out of this guy here. And the other thing I love about this is 47 you can wash, and when you get it out of the wash, it's fine.
Yep.
The brim is still good. It cleans up all the stains. It's again, that's the reliability part I love so much about 47 brand.
And like you said before, with the weather getting nicer, like sometimes I don't want to wear like a flat brim. And it's just some days I'm like, this is not my style. Yep. So I feel like they are way more comfortable. Yep. The comfort with them is unmatched. You just throw it on. I don't like the franchise as much because like I feel like my head's a weird size right now. Yep. So it doesn't fit. So I like the adjustable ones better. But again, regardless of what you get, you know what you're getting. You know the quality is going to be there. And some of the logos that they have are top notch. Like they're fantastic. So what I was looking like through mine. So again, I have so many of the 47. Did we ever refresh my memory? Did we ever play Halo together like back in the day? Like many. We
probably did. Yeah, we probably did.
Do you remember my first Xbox name was? Did we play together?
Wow, we're going way back, and I'm definitely not gonna remember that.
15 years ago. So my first Xbox name was actually Hollywood. So when I saw this get released, again, I was like, I have to get this. So this is like a little like throwback to early Xbox days.
Nice.
And then like the more recent ones that I've been purchasing, because again, I'm a sucker for the City Connects, especially with the
I love that. Side. Yeah, I love that. Yep.
When you're talking about side patches, I love the little side patch there on the side as well. It's like one of my favorites, the colors for the Boston Marathon. But my favorite 47 hat, I'll keep this one on for the rest of the time. Not a team, but just how an avid runner I am.
There you go. Nice.
I have see if I can get on camera. Figuring out what camera. There's my tattoo of the winged foot, which I can't get onto camera.
There it is. He got you.
So when I saw that, I was like, I have to get that. It's one of my favorite hats. And like I said before, so I'll undo the little ponytail I have back here, drop it down a little bit, and then be comfortable the rest of the time today. But speaking...
Like you said, that's what it's all about. It's all about the comfort with the 47. Do you find it with the 47, it's a little bit easier with your crazy hair to get those hats on than the fitted ones?
Look at that. It's a great fit.
It's a great fit. It's outstanding fit.
Love it. So speaking about how great 47 is as a customer or like shopping from 47, I have to go on a little bit of a rant here today. Yep. I've been stewing on this all day with Fanatics. So we've talked previously. I bought a couple hats probably in March from Fanatics. I bought a Marlins batting practice hat. Didn't like it. It was too big, so I brought it back. I ended up getting a Diamondbacks hat. Thought that was the end of it. Then I was looking for both a Pittsburgh Pirates batting practice hat as well as the Washington National City Connect because I know that they were being discontinued. So I'm like, I'm going to buy those from Fanatics. But I was like, I don't want to spend close to $50 on each one of these on Fanatics. So I went onto eBay. And when I went onto eBay, I found them for like $25 each. So I'm like, what can possibly go wrong here? So bought them, got the hats, no issues whatsoever.
Oh, that's great.
A couple weeks ago, when the Jets logo got redone, I wanted to buy a couple hats. So I go onto Fanatics to buy a couple hats, place my order. Instantly, I get the order's been canceled. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Let me just try a different payment method. So I went through PayPal. Instantly rejected. I'm like, what's the deal here? So I ended up calling them up, and I'm like, what's the deal? I don't know what's going on here. And they're like, well, actually, it looks like somebody was trying to like hack into your account. They were using my address. They were using my name, and they were sending things to my house. But then they were saying there was a claim filed saying that the package was never delivered. And then they were saying like, okay, I don't really know. This smells fishy. Let me talk to my administration. They got back to me. They're like, yeah, it looks like your account's been hacked. We're going to drop all of this. You're fine to go buy your hats. Okay. So, I'm thinking this is done with. I've made my argument. The Mets City Connects finally came onto Fanatics over the weekend. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to buy it. So I'm going to buy my Jets hats. I'm going to buy my Mets City Connect. Go to place the order yesterday. I think I'm fine. Put it through PayPal. Everything's good. This morning, I checked my email. Again, my order was canceled. And I'm like, what is the deal now? So I call up Fanatics, and I'm losing it, swearing. I lost my temper. Probably shouldn't have. But the guy's like, there was 2 hats, a Washington Nationals hat, and a Pittsburgh Pirates hat that was purchased that you filed a claim that it was never delivered, and we have proof of delivery. And I'm like, I have not bought a Pittsburgh Pirates or a Washington Nationals hat from Fanatics. I have not. I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing basically that we can do. I get heated. I hang up. After a couple minutes of like decompressing, I call back. And I get this great lady. I'm like, here's the deal. I don't know what's going on. I never made these purchases through Fanatics. I don't know why my account's being banned. And she goes, sir, did you happen to buy these hats from eBay? And I said, I did buy a Nationals hat. I did buy a Pirates hat from eBay. But that was eBay, nothing to do with Fanatics.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, oh, I've seen this before. It's a scam. I'm like, scam? Like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I have the receipts on eBay that I paid.
Right.
What people are doing is you place an order on eBay for a hat that's severely discounted, like literally more than half off. What that person on eBay does, and I wrote down their names because I want to shame them. It's Ali Dro -4 and Kabula _99. Do not buy from them. They're scam artists.
Okay.
What they do on eBay, once you place an order, they create an email account with your first and last name. What they do then is go onto Fanatics. They buy a hat at full price and have it shipped from Fanatics directly to your house. So you receive the hat. Okay? What they end up doing then is saying, I never received that hat. I want payment back.
Oh.
So they get their original payment back.
Wow.
From Fanatics. They get my money that I paid through eBay. They end up making money that way.
Wow.
I'm like, are you kidding me? So the two email addresses that they used to buy the hats was like MatthewGoebel23@gmail.com and MatthewGoebel4@gmail.com. I'm like, those are not my email addresses. So they're creating email addresses because now they have your address to ship it to you. They buy from Fanatics, put in your shipping account, their credit card number. It's insane to me.
That is wild.
So instantly went on eBay and I'm like, look, these are all scams, left negative feedback, all of that. Do not buy anything that's legit from eBay. Don't go that route, even if you're saving money. It's awful.
Jeez.
So it was like, I could not believe what was going on.
Well, that's nuts. I did not see where that story was going in terms of like, again, I've dealt with Fanatics before, and it all comes down to who you get on the phone. And that's like that with any place. I don't know if that's so much a Fanatics place. It's just customer service across the board. But if you get someone who's super nice and wants to work with you, you can pretty much find your way out of the problem. And I thought that's where you were going with it. But wow, yeah, that's ghastly. That's maniacal stuff right there.
I had it on speakerphone so Christina hears it, and the lady goes, they do this a lot of time with cards too. So you buy a card on eBay, they buy it off of Fanatics. So like several $100s on Fanatics, like signed cards. People are then buying, selling it through like their own means, and then saying it was never delivered, so they get reimbursed. So if you buy cards through eBay as well, watch out for that because all of it is a major scam.
Yeah, you always have to make sure you're looking at the reviews and who you're buying from. I mean, I bought from eBay a lot. And thankfully, I think I've only gotten scammed in terms of like not actually receiving the card. And the person goes away for like once or twice. That's it. And I've made a bunch of purchases through them. That's crazy. Yeah, you definitely got to be careful of that. Definitely got to be careful. So what you're saying is now you just have to buy straight up from Fanatics now.
Which is what I did. And I just bought the Met City Connect as well. So that'll be here in a little bit.
There you go. Nice. So speaking of the Met City Connect, I mean, listen, we're doing great on time here because we went past second base. We rounded second. We're digging for third, which actually gives us time to develop some more of our thoughts here. Not only in our MLB review, we're going to do our rapid review. We're going to do where we go over a few topics that have happened this last week in baseball and just get our initial thoughts from it. But when we come home, we're going to do our all-time favorite players to get a better idea of like who me and Matt are, and our love for baseball and the guys that have really kind of brought us into the game. But that is really, really crazy. I would not have thought of that because I've looked at eBay before too for hats, and I've never pulled the trigger because it's so funny. Like I saw those same things, like in terms of the prices being so good to be like too good to be true. And clearly for you, it was definitely too good to be true. That's the Pirates one right there, huh?
And right there is the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
So I mean, the hats are great. It's just my Fanatics account got shadow banned, and I have no idea why.
Well, hey, listen. So you got the Jets hat coming, and now you have the City Connect hat coming. Now that you've got, let's get ready to. We're digging for third here, Matt. So we're gonna do a little review of these City Mets hats. Now that we've seen them in the wild, you got one coming to your house. We now saw them on TV. I thought the helmets were fired. The helmets look great. Still, what the uniforms left me very flat, like very, very flat. What did you think of the Met City Connect now that you've actually seen them live and in action?
I think in totality, they're not the worst thing, and that's like kind of what I've been saying the whole time. My mom actually was talking to my mom, and she liked them, which I thought was kind of odd because that's not the demographics that they're going for. But like you said, I thought the helmet looked great because the Queensboro Bridge, I'll never forget that that's the Queensboro Bridge. The guy corrected me on TikTok. Like that popping out, just so much more with that matte finish. I'm not a huge fan of matte finished helmets because I just like the gloss more. I thought they looked great. I thought the uniforms were fine. My main issue is they're going to be wearing these at home. The team that they're playing against is going to be in the road grays. So when you had the Cardinals in that crappy Fanatics like uniform, it looks so bad when they were standing next to each other because it's like two different shades of gray. I felt like we're in like a 50 Shades of Grey movie here. It just did not look good. Now, if the Cardinals went with like their baby blues, like that would have looked great. But of course, Fanatics can't produce those right now, so you couldn't have that. So whenever you have this gray on gray, to me, I hated that. And I thought from the aesthetic, I was like, that does not look good. If the other team's in gray as well, it's just, I like color, obviously. There's no color with it.
No,
just the splashes of purple. It's just not enough when you're the home team wearing gray.
Did you feel it clashed at all with the stadium itself? Because I got that too. Like we're seeing these all gray, purple uniforms, but everything around the field is still blue and orange, and people in the stands are and they're blue and they're orange for the most part. It's like all these different like weird clash of colors. It's almost like the Mets home uniforms didn't get delivered. It was almost like a scene from Dodgeball, and they're coming out there with all this dominatrix stuff. Like it's like it didn't fit. It just didn't fit right with the stadium, with the color scheme. Again, I not a fan. Not a fan.
I love some of the subtleties that they did with like the side scrolling like video boards that they had. They had like the seven lines going around the stadium. I like some of those aesthetics, but again, like you said, it just looked out of place to me. And it didn't look like an MLB game. It looked more like a minor league game than it did an MLB game.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So your Kansas City Royals, you were big on them in the offseason. I know a couple times we played the show. You love the Royals. Second place in the AL Central.
Yeah.
Guardians seem to be like sort of a wagon here. What's the deal with the Royals? Is this sustainable?
So I think it is for a number of reasons. Let's look at the positive. The positive is, you have two players on the Kansas City Royals right now who could be vying for MVP honors. Bobby Witt Jr., he's having an outstanding season, hitting over 300. He's demonstrating the power, stealing bases. I mean, he is becoming that blue chip prospect that we all thought he was going to be. And now it looks like he can sustain it, which is outstanding. He's going to become a superstar in this game. But then Salvador Perez, again, which people are not talking about enough, all of a sudden is rejuvenated on this team. He is absolutely mashing the ball this season. He's hitting 340 at 7 homers, 26 RBIs, and he can still play a really good defensive catcher as well.
Do you know how old he is? I was shocked to find out how old he is.
He's not that old. I think he's like 32-ish, 31.
He's 33. I thought he was like 38, 39, 40.
He was a young guy. He was the young guy on that team. Absolutely. And the fact that, but he's been able to play this level of catcher for 10 straight, for a decade. Again, we're going to look back on this era and we're going to say, next to Yachty, this was the next best catcher that this era produced. So those two are off to fantastic starts. The Kansas City Royals starting rotation ERA is outstanding. They're 4th in all of baseball. Quality games from Seth Lugo, a guy who, again, going all the way back to our Mets days, I've always been high on. Never wanted to see him go. Brady Singer has been pitching well. Marsh has been pitching well at the end of the rotation as well. It's funny, and this is why I think this is sustainable. The Royals bullpen has been so incredibly good, and Cole Reagans has been all right. His ERA is sitting up in the high threes right now. He's still striking out the world. He's very susceptible to give up that big home run ball. Usually guys with high velo, again, they put that in the wrong spot. That ball is going to travel a ways. And right now he's kind of being hit by that. But again, it's early. Like Cole Reagans could easily get onto a stretch of like 4, 5, 6 consecutive starts of 2 or 3 less runs per game. And then he's right back into that Cy Young candidacy again. And outside of Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez, these Royals young hitters haven't exactly taken off yet. You look at Miguel Garcia, MJ Melendez, Vinny Pasquantino, even Kyle Isbell. You look at all these guys, Nelson Velasquez, who got off to a great start last year. Every single one of those guys is hitting under 230 with OPS is under 700. I'm a big believer in everything works out in baseball, the law of averages. Okay. Seth Lugo's ERA, I believe, is below 2 right now. Is it going to be below 2 all year? Probably not. But you can also say the same thing for this Royals offense. It's not going to stay there all year long. These guys are proven hitters in the minors. They run the bases like crazy. I think right now they're second or third in all Major League Baseball in stolen bases. There's a lot of things to like about the depth of this lineup once these bats start to heat up outside of Kansas City. You look at their schedule in May, and I think this is where they could really take off. They lost a tough series early in the year to the Minnesota Twins. They just lost another tough series this weekend against the Detroit Tigers. They get to play them one more time. Again, you know how this works in division. You drop 2 out of 3. The next time you play them, then you take 2 out of 3. A lot of back and forth I expect in this division. They play the A's one time. They play the Rays one time this month, and the Rays are floundering. I think they're 4th in baseball, actually 4th to last in baseball in run differential. So the schedule lines up pretty nicely. If the Royals can take care of business in the division, beat up on the A's, beat up on the Rays, we could be looking up on June 1st, and they're either a game behind or a game even above the Cleveland Guardians. It's still a long season. I still have faith in this young offensive group that they are going to take off, and I think the pitching can sustain it long enough to make these guys a wild card team or even vie for the AL Central. Probably a better chance to vie for the AL Central than the wild card, though, because, again, I don't know how many teams from the Central are going to be able to get in this year.
Don't sleep on the A's, though. The A's are surprising to me.
They're scrappy. Yeah. They are scrappy.
That back end of the bullpen is dirty.
Oh, Mason Miller. We got to get Mason Miller out there. Mason Miller out
there. He's
absolutely.
Filthy.
Absolutely. So, in other news this week, Aaron Boone had quite the Monday. He had a very, very quick game with the Yankees. First batter of the game, all of a sudden he's getting thrown out. Everyone's left wondering what the heck is going on. Then you go to the replay. He didn't even say anything. It was the fan behind him, but the ump didn't care at all. Matt, what did you think about what happened there? Talk me through, because I know you're not a big Aaron Boone guy because you're not a big Yankee guy, but you seem pretty sympathetic to Aaron Boone here.
I felt bad for him. So they get yanked 5 pitches into the game. So what happened earlier, there was like a check swing on a ball that hit Ruiz. So he wanted, like, the first base umpire made a bad call, and he was basically complaining to Hunter Wendelstedt about the play at first, or the check swing. And Hunter was like, listen, Aaron, like, what do you want me to do? It's not my call, okay? So then Aaron says what Aaron says, and this is all caught on camera. He's like, I didn't say anything. Yep. Next thing you know, a hot mic picks up a fan chirping at Hunter Wendelstedt. Yeah. He's got rabbit ears. Yep. So then he just turns around, or turns to Aaron Boone, who's at the edge of the dugout, and he says, you're not yelling at me. I'm quoting here. You're not yelling at me. I did what I was supposed to do, and I checked. I'm looking for him to get hit by a pitch. You got anything else to say? You're gone. Okay? Okay. Like, chill out, dude. God complex, relax a little bit. Boone says nothing. Camera shows him saying nothing. Hunter Wendelstedt then says he hears, again, I'm quoting him, hears from the far end of the dugout, hears somebody say something, looks again at Boone, and he says he's the manager of the Yankees, and he's responsible for the team. I don't care who said it, you're gone. Tosses Aaron Boone. Boone comes out. Now, again, I don't like him, and I feel like he's kind of like, he's got a little bit of Bobby Cox in him when he like goes on his tirades, but I love the fact that it was a Monday afternoon game, so the hot mics picked up everything.
Against the A's.
The A's.
In April. Like, dude, just chill out. He messed up the call. See, again, I don't want to take away from your time here, but, like, I almost wonder if, like, I know the umps getting a lot of flack for this, but these umps know what Aaron Boone's like. They know he loses his mind on the drop of a hat. So, you know, I don't blame him for having his guard up, being like, you know what? I don't want to deal with you yelling at me all game. It's the first inning. You're already giving me crap. And yes, he misunderstood what happened, but I kind of understand the gut reaction to that.
But see, like, the thing is, too, when the high mic picked up, when he's like, Hunter says to him exactly, quote, "You're probably right, Aaron," end quote. Like, you can't say that. That's like us being teachers. Yeah. A kid saying something, you're like, if I hear another word from you, you're out of here. Somebody in the back of the room chirps, and you're like, you know what? Get out. Go to the principal. I didn't say anything. I don't care. I heard something. You're out. You might not have said that. I'm sorry.
We do have students like that. I mean, I'm not saying I've ever done it. But listen, if the way we treat umpires in this sport, like, look at Angel Hernandez. There's nothing we can do about him. Yes, you're right. They do have a little God complex. I don't know if I had the same kind of thing happening at my school. Maybe that would be a strategy I would employ.
But are you going to do that Monday morning, 5 minutes after, not even 5 minutes after first period bell rings? I think I'd be like.
Let me tell you, I've had a rough weekend sleeping wise. Tomorrow morning, I may take that page from that playbook. Let me tell you. One of those kids get under my skin. You know what? Just get out. It wasn't me. It was Freddie. I don't care. Get out.
Oh, God.
Crazy.
Couldn't believe it. It was just another great baseball moment with umpires. And just like, I'd rather just be like, no, I heard it. You're gone. But the fact that he was like, yeah, you're probably right, Aaron. It's like, come on, dude. And I thought Aaron handled it well after the game and everything. And they're like, yeah, there's no hard feelings. If I see him out to dinner, we'll have fun. But I was just like, in that particular situation, I just thought that was funny. That's baseball. So continue with the Yankees, because they had another laughable little experience. John Sterling, just automatic. It's just like, you know what? I'm gone. I'm done. I'm dropping the mic. What happened with John Sterling? Tell me about John Sterling.
So, again, I'm not sure if it's medical or, the guy is, I believe, in his 80s already. I believe he's in his 80s. You know, listen, you get to be that age. I'm sorry. You get to do whatever you want. And the funny thing is, when I wanted to really comment on John Sterling was I didn't anticipate how I would feel about it. Because, again, we grew up in upstate New York. You know, Yankee games are always on the radio. You know, our friends always wanted to listen to them. And, you know, we had the voices of Michael Kay and John Sterling forever etched in our mind. You know, John Sterling was the voice of the evil empire, you know, and kind of using that Star Wars reference, it's like, oh, yeah, what if there's no more Darth Vader, though? Is the story really as interesting anymore? There's something about that voice that just – when I heard that voice, I'm like, oh, it's a Yankee game. And, you know, he loves the Yankees. He's all about the Yankees. He's incredibly biased. We got to listen to this awful radio broadcast because he's always going to be hyping them up. Like, I can't stand it. But it did create this kind of villain aspect that we've always felt about the Yankees. Guys like John Sterling and Michael Kay for so long were the voices to this. And I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it a lot because especially living down closer to the city, and now Michael Kay has his own national show. I've really come to really enjoy Michael Kay. I like listening to Michael Kay. And yes, even though he is still a huge Yankee apologist, but he has been critical at times. I give him a lot of credit for that. John Sterling is the epitome of a Yankee apologist. They can do no wrong. It's like when we talked to our buddy Mike. There's never a bad thing he's ever seen happen at Yankee Stadium. He's embodied that. And I've hated it for so long. But now that he's leaving, he's left us, and, he's left the booth, I'm really going to miss that. I'm going to miss not hearing his voice going, oh, God, I hate these guys, and I hate this franchise, and I can't stand his voice. I'm actually going to miss his voice. It's almost sad watching Darth Vader die. Like, not that he's dying, I hope he has good health, but like no longer being able to listen to his voice is a real bummer for me.
Can I give a really hot take right now?
Sure.
His home run calls are awful. Awful. I don't know where he makes up this crap.
Yes.
All rise. It is high. It is far. What was the one time with Stanton where he hit like it was like a fly ball to not even a warning track?
Yes, he lost his mind. It was a fly out. Yeah.
Oh my God. It was like, what happened?
See, I will say, I actually think it is high, it is far, it is gone, especially like in the big moments. You think about like Aaron Boone's home run in 2003 ALCS, like moments like that. I think those moments are iconic. I think that call is actually iconic. It's the stupid nicknames that he has for all those. You're right, like a Giambino, with Giambi. I hated that.
Labor Day.
Yes, exactly. It's because it's actually like it's a really beautiful call. In that moment, it's really beautiful, and then he just ruins it. He just absolutely ruins it. It's like you have this beautiful piece of steak came off the grill, the nice seared lines, nice porterhouse, and this guy pours ketchup all over the steak. It's like, just leave it alone. You don't have to say that. It is high, it is far, it is gone, and just leave it at that. But that's John Sterling, and I tell you, I think we're really going to miss it. We're really going to miss it.
Well, the good thing is now he can at least watch the games on TV, because apparently you got to get a guy that's 80 and that probably has made millions of dollars in his life. Got to give him a go-away present as a TV. I can just see them being like, we've got a TV in the clubhouse. We've got to give him something. This was abrupt. Like, just give him one of our extra TVs. Here you go.
But like,
bring this home with you, John.
Right, he's been there for years. How do you not get him a car? Like, just get him a car. I don't even care. Give him a Santa Fe or whatever. Give him a nice Pilot or a CRV. I don't care. Give him something. But a TV, I didn't understand that.
How is he getting that TV home? I guarantee you, he takes like the
not in a car.
How's he getting home with that?
Yeah, crazy.
I guess you see Susan Waldman like, we're getting it in John's car.
Yeah. She's got to be thinking to herself now, like, geez, what the hell are they going to get me?
I know, exactly.
Oh my God! All right,
bobblehead.
Let's come home, baby. Let's come home. All right, so Matt and I are setting up a little series here over the next few podcasts where we're going to talk about our all-time favorite players, and we're going to create our all-time favorite team. Now, again, we're not picking the best players per position. We are only picking players that we've seen, watching baseball over the years that we had a personal attachment to. All-time favorite players. We're not using players from an era that we did not witness at least a little bit. So, for example, like when I get to my third baseman, I caught more of the tail end of his career, but I loved everything he stood for. I loved the way he played the game, so I'll go off on that. So I won't be referencing guys like Jackie Robinson or Ted Williams, and Matt will do the same. He'll mention like guys like Tom Seaver or guys like that. So these guys growing up, we watched baseball. Even current players also have made this list as well. Now, Matt, we'll just swap positions here. You said you have a lot of Mets on yours, right?
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm a 90s kid, fell in love with baseball in the 90s watching the Mets, so that heavily influenced me. I did sprinkle in a little bit of extra, but mine is heavily Mets related. Yeah,
so we're just going to do infielders today. We're just going to do infielders today, including catcher. We'll tackle the outfield and DH next time. So let's just start right with catcher, Matt. Who is your all-time favorite catcher?
To me, this is a no-brainer. Probably my second favorite baseball player of all time, even though the fact that his catching really annoyed me because you could never throw anybody out stealing or even get the ball to second in the air. But I think probably the second most influential Met of all time, Mike Piazza. After 9/11 home run, always seemed to come up clutch. The way he drove the ball to right field, Mike Piazza is by far my favorite catcher of all time. Shout out to Todd Hundley as well, because he was also a stud, but he was roided up probably even more than Piazza. But Piazza is by far my favorite catcher of all time.
Very nice. Catcher was hard for me. I'll tell you. So growing up, I actually wasn't a Mets fan. The Braves were always on television. They were on TBS. My grandmother had connections with Hank Aaron. She loved watching the Braves when she was younger. My mom became a Braves fan. It was something we always connected with. But once the Braves kind of left TBS, and I wanted a team I could watch every single day, so I ended up settling with the Mets, even though they were a rival. But I spent a lot of times being a Braves fan, being very, very angry. Even though all they're winning, it's funny, with the Mets losing I've had to endure. I'm actually a much happier Mets fan than I ever was a Braves fan. But that's a story for another day. But growing up, I think of guys like Javi Lopez, who I liked as a hitter, but he was atrocious defensively.
I like Eddie Perez more than Javi Lopez.
I mean, that was Greg Maddox's personal catcher. Absolutely. Other guys that came to my mind were like Benito Santiago. I used to love watching him. Super gritty. I loved Paulo Duca as well. I loved the way he played the game. But if I'm picking my all-time favorite catcher, this is some recency bias, but I absolutely love watching him play. I love the kind of hope he had, or the signal of hope that he is for the Mets. It's Francisco Alvarez. I love his journey, even though he's only been in the league for a couple of years now as a big leaguer. He was not supposed to be a catcher. I mean, he came up as a catcher, but everyone kept saying how bad he was defensively. And people were wondering, what are they going to do with Francisco Alvarez? Is he going to go to the outfield? He's probably too short to be a first baseman. Is this guy just going to be a full-time DH? And again, follow the path of like a Kyle Schwarber. The guy's worked his butt off. Again, there's still a long way to go. But the fact that in his first year, dealing with the pitchers, he had to deal with guys like Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, seasoned veterans who have a lot of say in who their catcher is. And they wanted to throw to him. I have fallen in love with Francisco Alvarez. He's by far my favorite catcher now when I think of that position. So I'm going to go with Alvarez.
If you think about the lineage of like Mets catchers, so if you go like Piazza, Hundley, Todd Pratt, like they always seem to have a legitimate catcher. Like it just always seems like it's part of like the Mets DNA. Just as starting pitching is, same thing with catching.
Yep. I mean, Gary Carter back in the 80s, absolutely. Exactly. It always goes back to absolutely. First baseman. Now I had a list of first basemen. That could easily been on here. Honorable mentions to guys like Carlos Delgado, who I loved, Alonso, the big cat, Andres Galarraga. I used to love watching Galarraga. I used to mimic his stance a lot in the backyard. But when I think of my all-time favorite first baseman, oh my God, it's Fred McGriff and it's nobody else. I absolutely love Fred McGriff. A big fan of the Tom Amancy school.
That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely. McGriff was just a classic swing, super smooth, a team first guy. Oh, absolutely. I used to whip it around. I used to absolutely love that. And I feel like I'm so glad he finally went into the Hall of Fame last year. He was a guy who never got the credit he deserved for how long of a career he had and how high of a level he played in the 90s and 2000s. Absolutely loved Fred McGriff.
And what a fantastic nickname, the Crime Dog.
The Crime Dog. Loved it.
The Tom Amancy video, the thing that's forever ingrained in my mind is when the kid's throwing from like center field into the garbage can that's like on the ground at home plate. And it's just like, you can master this too. Like, oh my God.
Remember his like home run shot? Especially when he like rounded second, he like bounced up and down. Like it was like super stiff.
He always had like his ass sticking out. He's like,
yes. Yep. He never like got too high in terms of his emotion. He was a pretty stoic guy. Business as usual. And again, I love the flamboyant guys who get super energized and into it. But I had a lot of respect for McGriff and the way he carried himself as well. Absolutely love the Crime Dog.
So for mine, I'm going to go with somebody who's also stoic and probably.
I know who you're going with here. You even tell me. I know you're going with.
It's got to be Pete Alonso.
Oh
no! I'm kidding.
Never mind.
No, God,
I was gonna say like, well, okay, yeah.
So who do you think I'm going with?
John Olerud.
John Olerud.
Yep.
So with John Olerud, I was always like fascinated. Why do you think I was fascinated with John Olerud?
The helmet that he used to wear playing defense.
Exactly. So like with the whole helmet. So he had brain surgery when he was in college, and then his skull was actually like compromised. So it left him with like an actual like weakened skull. So he just thought from like a safety issue, I'm just going to throw on the skull cap and play first base. So like that's even when he was like with Toronto, like when they were winning like the World Series, I was like, who is this guy? And then once he became like a Met, and they're one of the best infields of like defensively at least of all time. Reliable contact hitter, fantastic glove. 17 seasons in the big leagues. 295 average. He had over 2,000 hits.
And he had sneaky pop. He had sneaky pop. Again, the problem with John Olerud is he literally played in the worst time period that he could play with first baseman. Because he had all these, Herculean first basemen like the Maguires of the world, the Palmeiros and the whatnot, who were hitting these 40, 50 homers a year. But there's this steady John Olerud, 20 to 25 homers, 100 RBIs here and there. But you're right. He was a staple in the league. He
was a stud. And I don't think I ever heard him talk.
Not much. No,
I don't think he was ever in a post game or anything like that. So sticking like with the Mets, because again, I said mine's gonna be heavily favored. Going to second base, my favorite second baseman to watch. Again, not the flashiest, not anywhere near a Hall of Fame, but he wore my number, so that automatically just ingrained him in my heart. My favorite second baseman of all time, Edgardo Alfonzo. Only played 12 seasons. I felt like he played more, but again, he was part of that Mets infield defense with Olerud, with Ray Ordonez, where he was a staple at second base. And if you needed a hit, Edgardo Alfonzo was getting a hit. His average was just constantly, his overall career average was like in the 280s. But if you needed a big hit, Edgardo Alfonzo was coming through. Even incorporating like Mike Piazza, if there was a big at bat, that's who you wanted up at bat. And I just always loved the way he played. Again, he was quiet, he was stoic, just got the job done. Loved Edgardo Alfonso.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's kind of my thinking with second base too. Like the first one that always comes to my mind is Roberto Alomar. I've never seen anyone play a better all-around second base than Roberto Alomar. Defensively, he was incredibly dynamic. I think about those old Cleveland Indian middle of the infield, him and Omar Vizquel. Like they sucked up absolutely everything. You couldn't get anything by them. Now, unfortunately for Roberto Alomar, he's gotten into a lot of trouble for possible sexual misconduct while he was a player. So I decided not to give him the stage for this. When I think about a guy who was clean cut and someone who is as super dependable as Roberto Alomar was, Michael Young came to my mind. Michael Young, same thing, had a incredibly sneaky good, borderline Hall of Fame career. If you had to guess, Matt, what is Michael Young's career batting average?
I would say he's probably like 310.
It's 300.
Yeah.
I mean, how many 300 guys do we leave out of the Hall of Fame that played second base? And not only that, Matt, he averaged per season 15 homers and 85 RBIs a season. I think that I'm going to start pushing a little Michael Young Hall of Fame consideration here. I think people forget just how good he was. Again, how dependable he was. I mean, look at this, Matt. I mean, 156, 160, 160, 159, 162. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He had 11 out of 13 seasons where he played 155 games or more.
My only issue with Michael Young, I'm looking at his splits right now. He's got pretty drastic home and away splits.
Again, I am a closet Colorado Rocky player supporter. I am. Like I love the Rockies. I love all those classic guys that have come out of there. Guys like Larry Walker, I already mentioned Galarraga, Tulo, Charlie Blackmon. I mean, Matt Holliday, all of us. Todd Helton. Todd Helton is a bona fide Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. He cannot control where he plays. Not everyone who plays for Colorado averages 330 for a career with 30 homers. Like, only certain players have done it. Todd Helton is one of those players. And yes, while Michael Young has played better at Texas, I mean, when you think about Texas Rangers middle infielders, how many are really coming to mind throughout your entire history of the Rangers? You're thinking Ian Kinsler, you're thinking him. That's basically it.
A-Rod.
A-Rod for the brief time that he was there. Sure. For the brief time that he was there.
So going on to shortstop, I so badly wanted to go with Derek Jeter because I just loved watching him play. I felt like he was one of the. I was waiting for you to be like,
yeah. There's no way. I mean, you've already tried to set me up for Pete Alonso here. There's no way I'm falling for the Jeter nonsense. Just say Jose Reyes and we'll move on.
So it's not Jose Reyes because I wanted to diversify a little bit. And again, like you know how I've said before, like my dad was a Cincinnati Reds fan growing up. So my first was Barry Larkin. And my whole argument, my entire life, when I go clap at Yankee fans, Derek Jeter to me was the same player as Barry Larkin, but since Barry Larkin played in Cincy, he didn't get the same postseason experience, the spotlight that Derek Jeter did. Barry Larkin is a top 5 shortstop in the modern era. I mean, to take those teams like that 1990s Reds team was stacked, but World Series champion. Like I fell in love with that Norm Charlton, that Cincinnati Reds team with the cutoff vest, and just like Barry Larkin was the pinstripes. Yeah. That was what a shortstop was. He played 19 seasons, all for the Reds. So again, Middle America versus New York City. So that's why he doesn't get the same accolades. Didn't have the same like postseason experience. But again, if you took Derek Jeter and switched him with Barry Larkin is a first ballot, 100% Hall of Famer. And Derek Jeter has the same sort of like hoopla around him that Barry Larkin does now. Barry Larkin, to me, was one of my favorite shortstops of all time to watch. Wasn't flashy, wasn't like a Ray Ordonez, didn't have the speed of a Jose Reyes. Overall game, though, give me Barry Larkin. I'll win 90 games a year.
I like it. I like it a lot. Again, I'm showing a little bit more recency bias, but I feel like I've defended this guy so much at shortstop to Mets fans that there's just no other way around it. It's Francisco Lindor. I love everything about him, including his faults, including all the perception of what Met fans hoped he would be. I just really learned to love and appreciate the player he is and what he gives that team, the energy he's given that team since the day he's walked in the door. We talk about this all the time. There's a lot of guys who shy away from the lights of New York, and I don't blame them. Who wants to be booed and ridiculed and screamed at by your own fans, when things don't go your way? Look at what Aaron Judge has had to go through these first couple of weeks of the year. New York is a hard place to play. He's embraced it, and he has said all the right things this entire time. He's taken guys like Brett Baty under his wing. He's been a leader on this team, whether he has that captain title or not. This guy has been the man for the Mets. I love what he does with the glove. Whatever he gives us with the bat is always an added plus. And again, there's nothing wrong with saying, yes, Lindor is not what we thought he was going to be, but I'll settle for him being a top 3 shortstop in baseball. I'm okay with him. Yes, he did homer again today. He's been much better from the left-handed side. He had 2 homers the other day against the Giants. It's a law of averages. It's going to average itself back out. He's going to be around 250 to 280 with around 25 to 30 homers and close to 80 RBIs and probably 15 and some odd steals and play Gold Glove defense. I'm sorry, what more can you really ask for?
And I agree, and I just feel like he's coming around. And I thought today, before he hit the home run, I thought for sure he was either going to get gassed on a fastball up, or he just can't seem to lay off like a slider low and in like recently. And Lynn hung a slider.
Yep.
And good contact. So I mean, like, yes, I think he's coming around. One more thing on Barry Larkin to
oh sure. Oh yeah, go ahead.
How many MVPs did Barry Larkin win?
He won 1.
He won 1 MVP. How many MVPs did Derek Jeter win? There's my case.
I mean, I don't know if that should be our only measure, but okay. I mean, that's all right.
Just gotta get my dig in there. That'll be good.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right, give me your third baseman.
So third baseman was a struggle because there's 2 guys that come to my mind. The guy that's the runner-up, I love Nolan Arenado. I mean, I love Nolan Arenado from his days in Colorado. That image of that one time he hits the game-winning home run, he has the blood coming down his face, like that's Nolan Arenado. Great defensive third baseman, great bat to have in the lineup. That offseason when the Mets were deciding between Lindor and Arenado, I was really torn. I'm like, to me, there was no wrong answer. I really want them to sign both. I still wish they signed both. But Arenado has always been a player. I respect his game. Now that he's wearing that Cardinals uniform, it takes a little bit away because the Cardinals and the Mets, we have this thing with them. I hate playing them. It was another rough weekend playing against those guys. But the guy I ended up giving the nod to was George Brett. I absolutely love George Brett for being that guy throughout his entire career who, again, I think had a grit for absolutely everything. I think Mike Schmidt got a lot of the acclaim for being the greatest third baseman of that era, and now we consider Mike Schmidt to be the greatest third baseman of all time. I think people forget just how small that gap was between Mike Schmidt and George Brett. And you're talking about George Brett leading those Royal teams for, almost a decade, being the top of the American League year in, year out, constantly battling the Yankees from the late 70s all the way into the early to mid 1980s. George Brett was that guy. The Pine Tar incident where he's losing his mind in Yankee Stadium. Like, these images we have about George Brett, just when you root for a player, you root for a team, you want the guys on that team to care about it as much as we do as fans, because we are fanatical. And we want players at times to express those same emotions, or at least appear they care as much as we do. Now, obviously they do. They care probably way more than we do because it's their job. But when someone can kind of match our energy, match our passion, those are the guys I always want to root for. And George Brett was that player his entire career. Absolutely love George Brett.
See, and I'm kind of surprised that you went in that direction, because to me, there's a clear-cut favorite. I shouldn't say that. How can I say this? When I was creating mine, I, of course, wanted to go with David Wright, because to me, it's like every single Mets fan thinks of David Wright as like their favorite player. And I love David Wright. I think if you were to ask Christina, she would probably say David Wright is my favorite baseball player of all time. And the whole thing that happened when he tried to tag Carlos Lee and ended up like losing his career because of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say David Wright was my favorite, and I thought that was going to be the direction that you were going to go.
No.
But I did not go with David Wright as being my favorite third baseman.
Two Mets fans did not pick David Wright.
I ended up going with another Met, though, as my third baseman. And it is my favorite baseball player of all time.
I know this one, too.
Who am I going with?
It's Robin Ventura.
Incorrect. I did not like Robin Ventura.
Wait.
Robin Ventura to me was what I remember of Robin Ventura is the sliding on the tarp. I just was never a huge Robin Ventura because I loved Nolan Ryan, and when he charged Ryan, I was like, and you get noogied like that, like, I'm sorry, that just questions your manhood. My favorite Met is probably, I wouldn't even say he's probably on the top 100 of Mets of all time, but I absolutely loved him to the fact that I was him for Halloween for like 3 to 4 straight years when I was in elementary school.
Why can't I
my favorite third baseman and my favorite baseball player of all time is Howard Johnson.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Absolutely loved Hojo. It's the only time in my life I can honestly remember crying over a baseball player leaving the team. When he went to Colorado, I think it was like 1993. Like, I remember being like 7 or 8 years old and finding it out and like legitimately crying. Now, when I'm saying I dressed up as Howard Johnson, you remember what it was like when we had Halloween when we were kids. You always wore like the plastic mask with like that really like crinkly hot like costume.
Yep.
I actually had a Mets jacket that my parents wrote Johnson on the back, 20.
That's awesome.
I would paint on a beard. I would have on my Mets hat. I went around as Howard Johnson for like 3 to 4 straight years for Halloween. I absolutely loved Hojo.
That's awesome.
The fact that he's not like the most acclaimed or like most well-known Met, he kind of gets like lost in the shuffle in like the 86 team with Keith and Gary Carter and Doc and Darryl and all that. Howard Johnson is my favorite baseball player of all time, my favorite third baseman of all time, my favorite Met of all time, even though he's not technically the greatest.
That's all right. And that's not what this is about. Yep. This is about just, again, who you love, who you supported. When you think about, again, your favorites of all time, again, that's what this is for. And Howard Johnson's a good one. I like it. Good for you, buddy. I forgot your love for Howard Johnson. Forgot your love for him. Listen, it's good. Under an hour, a little under an hour, but we're getting better with this. We're getting better with the timing with this. All right. So hopefully, again, something you guys can digest and appreciate. We're gonna be back at it hopefully again next week, if not definitely the week after. We got a lot of things happening over this next couple of weeks. I can't wait to talk to you guys all about it.
Let's go, Mets.
Keep it going, baby.